Hey loves, and welcome to episode 3 of the TL Yarn Crafts podcast. I am Tony, your host. I am the educator and designer behind TL Yarn Crafts, and you can always find me at TL Yarn Crafts on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, literally everywhere. So to kick things off, I'm going to be the old lady that I am and talk about the weather. It is now officially April by the time that I'm filming this, and spring has sprung. I am so happy. The only struggle is, of course, with spring comes allergies. I lost my voice earlier this week, but hey, we are going to knock this out and we're going to have a great time, right? You, me, let's make it happen. All right, first up, of course, is whips and finished objects, and we're going to start things off with our temperature blanket. And the reason I am so excited is because we hit a pretty major milestone this month. Not only have we used more of that pretty mango color, but let me unroll this guy because it's getting long. I'm like throwing it over my shoulder. Look, guys, we added a second panel. Oh my God. Okay, so if this is your first podcast episode, you might not realize why I'm so excited about this. Reason being, I am working my temperature blanket in strips. They're going to be 5 total strips, so it's going to grow out width-wise. I have been working this first strip basically all of like the first quarter of the year, which makes sense. But I finally got to my second strip, and I am joining my second strip to my first strip seamlessly with my Tunisian crochet join as you go method. So what that means is with every single row that I do on my second strip, I'm joining it to the, I guess, matching row on my first strip. I don't have to join any panels together separately. I'm really, really grateful for that. This little piece of crochet, nothing has made me as happy as this has in a very long time. So you're going to note that I am a little bit behind. So this last white strip up here was the beginning of March. Clearly this is not the entire month of March. I've been doing some traveling lately, so I'm a little bit behind, but I'm hoping to spend basically the beginning of next week getting caught up on my temperature blanket. So look out for more details on that in my Instagram feed. The next finished project that I'm really excited to share with you guys is my Bronwyn Shawl. Now, you might know all about the Bronwyn Shawl by being part of my Furls Crochet Along, which was going on basically the entire month of March. But if you weren't following along, can finally show you, this is the second one that I made. So the original one I made was made with We Are Knitters, the baby wool, 100% alpaca. Oh my God, so lovely. This one is made with Malabrigo. Sadly, I cannot find the labels, so I don't know the colors and I don't know the exact yardage of what I used. So hopefully by the time I update this post on my blog, I will have all that information. I just need to clean my room. It's a freaking mess right now. Let me tell you a little bit about this girl because I haven't mentioned it on the podcast before. So it starts off kind of similar to my flat iron shawl. If you've worked my flat iron shawl before, you're going to recognize kind of the construction of this first section. So it starts off with single crochet stitches here, and then we move into a bit of color work. So it's 3 rows of this kind of mesh section. Is a single crochet row, then the mesh, and then another single crochet row, and then we break that up with a single crochet stripe. And then we continue that on until we get to this section, which I call like the pow pow section. That's when you introduce color C, and that's like your jump out at people, boldest color. And I picked this really gorgeous, like fiery orange, and broke it up with this really muted, kind of relaxed, creamy color. And then you go into this final section, which is just texture on texture on texture. This is called, I think, the Alpine stitch. So it's front post, double crochets interspersed with like single crochets or something like that. I don't remember it offhand. And then you finish it up with a border. Now you have 2 different border options with the Bronwyn. The original sample, I worked an applied I-cord border, and that border technique is going to be a video on my YouTube channel once the entire project, all the rights revert back. But it's an applied I-cord border, and that was the original one. It's really sleek, really sexy. You get to try something new with crochet because I haven't seen a lot of crochet patterns that use an applied I-cord, which I'm like, why? It's freaking gorgeous. And the other option is this adorable bobble border. Like, it has my heart. So I saw this bobble border for the very first time on Daisy Farm Crafts blog. If you don't follow them already, they're like amazing baby blanket designers, but even outside of just baby blankets and the actual patterns, they share some amazing techniques and some really great videos. And they had this bobble border that was on a blanket that they made. And I'm like, how perfect would that be for a shawl? it will be this perfect. It will be Bronwyn level perfect. So this project is going to be a free pattern on my blog once all the rights revert back to me. So I'm putting that in my Whips and Finished Objects because I hadn't shared it with you guys yet. And I just absolutely loved making this. And eventually I'm going to get the original sample back too. So it'll be like Battle of the Bronwyns. So all my other works in progress are like super top secret right now, but I do have one other thing that I'm planning to start working on soon. One of my absolute best friends here in Columbus found out that she was pregnant a little while ago and she's having a girl. Like making stuff for little girls. I don't know about anybody else, but like buying stuff for little girls, making stuff for brand new baby girls. It's literally the best thing in the world. And as a maker, I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to go buy you all the things, but I have to at least make one thing. And that, of course, is going to be a baby blanket. So I'm like, how can I crochet a baby blanket for somebody who, one, inevitably is going to get a ton of baby blankets because that's how the world works right now. How am I going to make mine a little bit different, a little bit more modern, a little bit more fun? Because that's the kind of girl that my friend is. So I found myself in the store and I ran across some new colors of the Bernat velvet. They had an entire display of brand new baby colors. Now, I am not a fan of like traditional boring baby blue, boring baby pink. Oh my gosh, I abhor it sincerely. Elevate the baby colors, okay? And Bernat must have heard my pleas because they're like, yes, gladly. We're going to give you like 4 different pinks. We're going to give you all the blues, all the teals, the really soft grays. We're going to give you a creamy white. We're going to do all of that in the velvet and also in a whole bunch of their other yarn lines. So let me show you what I'm working with for this baby blanket. It goes a little something like this. Bam, bam, bam. I mean, oh gosh, look, let me hold you close. Let me let you see. I need you to experience this with me, my loves. Okay, so this one on my far left, this one is called Blissful Graige. I am not even kidding. It says Blissful Graige. Look. It says Blissful Graige. Is graige not one of my favorite colors in the entire world? You take gray, you take beige, they make a baby, you got graige. And this one is not just graige, it is blissful. And it truly is because the velvet yarns are so lovely and so soft, and I love how they're constructed because they are safe for babies, and you want something that's super soft like that next to baby skin. So this graige is absolutely fabulous. It's not just light gray. It's more of a warm gray, which I love. I love warm neutrals in general. And then we've got this one. This one is called Snowy White. So it is definitely white, but I feel like there's some cooler undertones under this that still work really well with the graige. And then last but not least, we have Pink Dusk. Are these names not absolutely perfect? So this one is kind of a soft, more modern, I think, pink. It is not a baby pink. So I'm going to put all of these 3 together. I love them. Like as soon as I saw them, I was like, put them in the cart, put them in the bag, gotta have them. No questions asked. I don't care if I have a coupon or not. Give them here. So I don't know exactly what these are going to become. I'm trying to decide between a chevron or like a giant granny square that grows from the middle and changing color each row or like every 2 rows or something. I was also thinking about doing something in Tunisian. I don't know. Sky's the limit. And when this will actually get done, please don't quote me on it. My friend is not due till August, so I got time. Now it's time for hashtag yarn love. So exciting because I've got a lot of really fun goodies to share with you this time. So first up on the docket, I got a DM from my friends at Yarnspirations, and they're like, hey, seasons are transitioning. We got some things going on. Like, do you want to do this? And I was like, yes, literally anytime. So they sent me just a goodie box of some really amazing yarns. So the very first one is this one right here. This is Bernat Maker Big. So I worked with Bernat Maker Home Deck for some pillows that I did a while back, a whole series of Tunisian crochet pillows. There are patterns for those, and I'll put those links down in the description. But this one is Bernat Maker Big. This is a category 7 jumbo. So it's not bulky. It's not super bulky. This bad boy is jumbo, baby, and it is huge, but it is not hard to work with at all. I ended up making a really fun project with this that's complete, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. You're going to see that on my blog in the next like month or so, and it's going to be a free pattern with a full-on tutorial. I'll talk about it next month, promise. So this color is called Amber, and they had a lot of other really good colors too. I think when the original Bernat Maker collection came out, they were still playing around with color palettes, and this time it feels a lot more earthy, a lot more modern, really approachable for somebody like me. I could definitely see making all kinds of home decor projects with something like this, and I've got a little home decor thing planned of my own. Also in the Yarn Inspirations goodie box was this stuff called Hipster from Paytons. So I'm going to hold that up for you. Yeah, it's legit called Hipster. And the reason it's called Hipster is because it's a blend with hemp in it. It's 55% hemp, 45% cotton. Now I will say, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When I first pulled this out of the box and felt it, I was like, I don't love it. It takes a lot for me to love a cotton yarn anyway. It needs to be insanely soft because a lot of the things that I make need to be next to my skin. But the more I thought about it, a yarn like this is not made to go next to your skin. It's made to have a lot more strength and integrity and be used for kind of those hard wearing projects. The first thing that came to mind for me is a purse. So I'm going to do a Tunisian crochet purse out of this. I've got these 4 colors, and I also asked my friends, once I had these colors in my hand, I looked at some of the other colors that were on the Yarn Inspirations website, and I was like, hey, can you send me these too? So I've got some more colors coming, and I'm going to do this really fun Tunisian crochet colorful stripy summer tote bag. Now, I might be getting in over my head because I also went to Joann's yesterday and got a whole bunch of like leather working supplies. Now, to say I jumped out the window would be an understatement. I literally went to the top of the building and swan dived off into all of the leather products. I got a rotary cutter specific for leather. I don't even know if that's necessary. It's probably not. I got this thing that punches holes in leather, probably also not necessary. I just got some, like a leather strip. I'm going to try and use that for the handles of my tote bag. We'll see how that goes. I also got some magnets, and I got this swivel hook because I was like, you know what? If we're going to do it, let's go all in and make a tassel too. I don't know how this is going to turn out, you guys. We're going to be on this journey together, and you can follow along with that whole thing on my Instagram feed once I get started on that project. Now, there was a lot more stuff in that box of goodness from Yarn Inspirations, but the last thing that I'm going to show you is this really fabulous yarn from another company called Sugarbush. Now, I don't know all of the ins and outs. All I know is now I can get Sugarbush yarns from Yarn Inspiration. If you're not familiar with Sugarbush, they're this Canadian-based company, and they have, they remind me in some ways of Knit Picks, wherein they have lots of different yarn weights, lots of different bases. It's not necessarily hand dyed, but it's almost like that higher quality stuff that you need to have in your stash all the time. So like really good colors of basic merinos, really good colors of basic cottons. They've got some nice variegated yarns, like all kinds of things. And you can really explore the entire library of yarns that are available from Sugarbush. I've worked with them before. I made this really fun Tunisian crochet shawl that I'm planning to release later on this year. But since it's the spring, I wanted to kind of brighten things up, and I'm trying some different colors. So I got this stuff. This is called Crisp, and this is 100% extra fine superwash merino. It's a level 3 DK weight. This one's called Fiesta. This one is called Mango. And then this one is called Cream. So I'll hold those up so you can see them, but I absolutely loved these colors together. Like, look at that. Oh my gosh. Does that not scream summer right in your face? Now, again, what this will become, I'm not 100% sure. That is not how I shop nor how I live my life. The yarn will speak to me, and she will become the swan she is. Next up here in #YarnLove, I want to talk about some yarn that I finally was able to get my hands on. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have been dying over the brand new cotton colors available from We Are Knitters, particularly this one color called Dark Copper. So I happened to comment on one of the stories that We Are Knitters put up, and I basically said something like, I've never wanted a yarn so bad. And they're like, we got you, boo. Bam! It happened. It's here, and it's glorious. Like, sometimes when you see things in real life, you're like, that's actually quite underwhelming. That didn't happen here. I actually got 5 balls of the cotton from We Are Knitters in the color Dark Copper. This is a DK weight, 100% cotton. It's really lovely, and it's super soft. This is not like a kitchen cotton. This is not like the stuff that you're going to get from your big box craft store. This stuff is refined. It feels amazing. I love that it's DK weight because I find that sometimes it's hard to find lighter weight cottons that are actually nice. So here, I'm going to hold this up so you can see this color. Not even kidding. Duh. So this is their dark copper color. Now they have other amazing cottons, but I feel like this is the kind of color that's really hard to find from larger manufacturers. I've seen color like this from some of my absolute favorite indie dyers, but to get something like this from a large company like We Are Knitters, I am impressed. What this will become, I am still narrowing it down. I put a question up in my stories on Instagram to get some inspiration from you guys. And the one thing that kept coming up is like a t-shirt. I got that maybe like 30 or 40 times. People are like, make a really nice summery t-shirt, like a nice basic t-shirt. And I was looking around on Pinterest, and you would be surprised how hard it is to find just like a basic classic crochet t-shirt, especially in cotton. So I'm like, not a bad idea. Next up here in hashtag yarn love, I just want to talk about something that I am really, really excited about. So I've mentioned Knit Picks multiple times. They are one of my favorite online yarn companies. And I got my catalog in the mail earlier this week and there was a piece of news in it. And I was like, wait, hold the phone, hold up, run it back. What did you say? Darlings, Knit Picks is having a warehouse sale. Now, you might be like, okay, yeah, so what? It's at a warehouse. The reason I'm really excited, as I mentioned in the last podcast episode, the Knit Picks warehouse is in Columbus. Not only is it in Columbus, I Googled it and it is 4 minutes from my house. 4 minutes. So they are having a warehouse sale on June 8th. I think it's from 9 to 6. I think that's what I read on the website. I'm going to be there at 8:40 with bells on and like tote bags out the wazoo because I'm going to just black out. Now, granted, I have a lot of yarn. I've said many, many times, I'm scaling back, I'm chilling out, but there are a few things from Knit Picks that I cannot live without. So on my short list of things that I have to get, I'm definitely going to stock up on more colors for my temperature blanket. They also have this new yarn called Snuggle Puff. And from what I read, it's a cotton that is blown into a nylon casing. So it's super duper lightweight and the colors are really fun. They're definitely like Eastery, very pastel-y, but they have a few colors that I really like. I actually ordered some well before I knew about this warehouse sale. So if I love it, I'm going to be getting a ton of that. And other than actual yarn, I really want to look through all of their books and their tools. And in addition to yarn, they're also going to have different art supplies and quilting supplies. So who knows what I'm going to be able to pick up. So if you're anywhere near the Columbus area or even up for a drive in, I would absolutely love to see you at that Knit Picks warehouse sale. It's going to be on June 8th. That's a Saturday from 9 to 6. And I am totally going to be there. And if that's not enough yarn for you, I want to invite you guys to my D-Stash sale. So you might notice the shelves behind me are looking a bit bare. Since I was sick earlier this week, for whatever reason, when I get sick, I just need to clean the house. Even while I'm sick, I just look at things and I'm like, hate it, gotta go, need to clean, legit everything. So I walked into my studio the morning that I first got sick. I felt miserable. And the first thing I thought was, get it all out, empty this entire room. So I went through my whole yarn stash and just started pulling stuff out. I was like, this has got to go. I'm getting to that point where I have much more yarn than I know I'll ever have an opportunity to use. And since that is the case, I need all of this yarn to go to good homes. So I'm going to be doing a D-Stash sale twice this week on my Instagram live. So the first day is going to be Wednesday, April 10th. At 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And that first D-Stash is going to be all of my really nice fine yarns. And when I say fine yarns, I'm talking about the really nice stuff. I'm talking about stuff that I bought at fiber festivals, stuff that I've purchased from hand dyers. These are things that I bought for very specific projects that were going to be just independent releases. Nothing that was going to go with a particular yarn company, nothing I was planning to submit to a magazine, just yarns that I loved and wanted to make personal projects out of. So I've got a little sneak peek of a few of the things that are going to be in the D-Stash on April 10th at 8:30 Eastern time on my Instagram. Just let that soak in real quick. We got some hedgehog fibers, some spun right round, and then we have Primrose Yarn Co. Ugh, So good. And in this corner, we have Redbird Yarn Studio, we have Leading Men Yarn Studio, and we have Humade, which I'm like, ugh. I wish I could keep them all, but I legit just can't. I don't have enough time in my life to use all of this yarn. So like I said, this is going to be a 2-part D-stash, and the second part of the D-stash is going to be on Thursday, April 11th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on my Instagram Live, and that's going to be more of the big names, big box yarn. So I've got Lion Brand, Knit Picks, Bernat, all of them full ball, some of them actually gigantic, but these are going to be yarns that you know and love and have worked with before. Now let's talk about my favorite things. Some of them are yarn related, many of them are not. And my very first favorite thing is this little guy right here. This is The World According to Mr. Rogers. Now I don't even know exactly how to describe this book, but it's basically a collection of the worldview of Mr. Rogers. If you're an 80s baby like me, you grew up on Mr. Rogers, you know that he is warm, kind, and loving. I haven't seen the documentary yet, but what I remember of him, I was like, just tell me the secrets of the world. And I feel like he had them, and all I had to do was loving each other, loving our neighbors, taking better care of ourselves, and really appreciating people for exactly who they are. So I've actually incorporated this book as part of my morning routine. I love to wake up, I make myself a cup of tea, I usually do a workout, do a little bit of yoga, and I finish up before I get to work by reading a passage out of this book. So I'm going to read you 2 of my favorites that I've gotten to so far. So this first one is from the section called The Courage to Be Yourself, and it says, whatever we choose to imagine can be as private as we want it to be. Nobody knows what you're thinking or feeling unless you share it. And I thought that was so important because I feel like in this day and age with all of the social media, our instinct is to share everything immediately. But I think it's important to hold some things close to your chest and hold some things close to your heart, the things that you want to experience and feel all on your own before you share them with anyone else. I really thought that was so beautifully worded. And then in the understanding love section, he says, love isn't a state of perfect caring. It is an active noun like struggle. To love someone is to strive to accept that person exactly the way he or she is, right here and right now. Look, loves, I am about to celebrate 10 years of being married, and I have never heard a truer sentence. Another of my favorite things is yoga by Adrienne. So Adrienne is a YouTube yogi, and she puts out videos on a pretty regular basis. I mean, she's pretty huge now. And one of the videos that she recently put out is called Office Break Yoga. It's like 10 or 15 minutes long, and it actually popped up in my notifications right when I was just about to finish a really busy and hard day of doing TL Yarn Craft stuff. So it popped up. I was like, oh, this feels timely. Let's go ahead and knock this out. You guys, I have never felt so refreshed from like 10 or 12 minutes of stretching as I did after I finished this video. My neck, my shoulders, my upper back, my lower back, all the way down my spine, even into my behind, like everything just felt better. And you never realize when you sit at a computer for basically 8 hours a day, which sometimes I have to do, how much you hunch and scrunch and bunch over, and everything's like, brah, like it's like it happens. And then you finally stand up and you're like, why do I feel so awful? And it's because your body has been contracted for such a long time. And this was just kind of a short and sweet video where I was able to do it right when I was done with my work day, and moving into the rest of my evening, I was like, I feel amazing. And then the very last thing that I'm absolutely loving right now is the fact that local yarn store day is coming up. So this is a day that we can really love and support our local brick and mortar yarn stores and all the people that work in them, all the people that have product in them, and just the community that surrounds them. So I've celebrated local yarn store day usually by dropping into one or maybe more than one of my local yarn stores here in Columbus. I'll buy something. They usually have some kind of event going on, so I'll support that however I can. This year I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm actually going to be at the Yarn Stop, which is in Clawson, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. I'll actually be teaching as part of their local yarn store day festivities, and I'll be focusing on the honeycomb stitch pattern in Tunisian crochet. In that class, we're actually going to be making my honeycomb Tunisian ear warmer. We're going to practice the foundation, the Tunisian simple stitch, the Tunisian pearl stitch, and all of my favorite techniques like binding off and where to place your last stitch and how to read your stitches. We're going to cover all of that in this class. So that's going to be on Saturday, April 27th from 10:30 to 12:30 at the Yarn Stop. And there actually are still seats available, but not a whole lot. So make sure you go snag one before they're gone. And even if you can't make it to the actual class, I would love if you just drop by the Yarn Stop sometime that day. I'm going to be doing a pop-up where I'll have several of my samples in person that you can touch and try on and feel and play with. And you'll also be able to purchase printed patterns and crafty badges from me that day. All right, friends, it is time for open floor, where I just get to run my mouth about whatever is on my mind. And today, what's on my mind is free versus paid patterns for independent pattern producers. So here's the deal. If you're interested in selling patterns, if you sell patterns already, if you've been doing it for a long time or for a short time, there's always this underlying conversation happening between people who have free patterns maybe up on a blog or even for download on a site like Ravelry, and then people who exclusively sell patterns for money. That's the only way that you can get them. I think there are pros and cons to both, and I'm going to go through some of the kind of common arguments you get for both sides. So first up, let's talk about paid patterns. And you can sell patterns on many, many different sites. I've talked at length about being an independent pattern writer, and you can find different live streams and blog posts either in my Facebook group, TLYC Makers, or also on my blog, TLYCblog.com. I sell some paid patterns. I do have some patterns that you can only purchase. And here are 3 arguments for maybe why you'd want to do it that way. So the very first argument for selling paid patterns, of course, is that you get cash money. You get a notification from whatever platform that you sell your patterns on saying, hey, in exchange for this pattern, this person has given you this money. So you can count how many patterns you sold, how many people have seen it, how many people have it, how much money you've made. And some people really like the security of that kind of one-for-one transaction. I think also when you have paid patterns, you set the value of your work. So maybe you've got a pattern that's $2.99, maybe you've got a pattern that's $5, maybe there's one that's $7.50, maybe there's one that's $15. Whatever it happens to be, you have the only say on how much that pattern is going to cost. And then your customer can decide whether or not that value makes sense for them and they purchase it. And then lastly, which I think is a really valid point, is that you have complete control over the distribution and future promotion of your work. So let's say you wanted to do, I don't know, a coupon code or some kind of giveaway. You control the value of that product, so you get to choose when you might give it away or offer it for a lower cost. Now let's talk free patterns, and I'm specifically going to talk about offering free patterns on a blog because that's where my experience has been. And usually that means that you have some kind of information at the top of your blog, and then in the kind of the bottom 2/3 of the blog post, there's the actual pattern that people can follow to make the product. One of the greatest pros for a format like this is that you really have an emphasis on teaching somebody how to do something. So not only are you sharing the actual pattern with them, but you're talking about techniques, and you can really expand on certain areas of your pattern that might not be so easy to do when you sell a formatted pattern. Also, when you have free patterns, it gives you a lot more space to experiment. So maybe you have certain techniques that you want to play with that aren't normally in your wheelhouse. Maybe you have certain colors that you want to experiment with. You can really kind of jump out the window with whatever type of projects you want to release. I find that with my paid patterns, I kind of have this set formula for what they need to look like, what types of patterns, what kind of colors I need to use, what the feel even of the photos need to be. But when it comes to my free patterns, I can really play around a lot more, and I can kind of intersperse smaller projects in between some of the bigger projects that I'm only going to sell. And then last but not least, which I think is honestly the biggest pro when it comes to having free patterns on a blog, is that it really helps to expand and explode your audience very, very quickly. Here's a little piece of advice. People really like free things. There is a huge majority of people in this world who like free things. So when you offer something free on your blog that somebody can access with just a click of their mouse, they're more likely to engage with it. And especially if you have a blog that is monetized with ads, you will make money even if that person does not choose to actually make your product. Depending on how your monetization is broken down, every page view and every length of time that somebody spends on your page means money in your pocket. It's a little bit harder to quantify as a one-for-one transaction, but that money really adds up at the end of the month when you get the money from your monetization company. So when it comes to this age-old question of offering free patterns or paid patterns, I think the best answer is somewhere in the middle. I have found that my format of having some free patterns and mostly paid patterns has helped really expand the reach of my company. So I can reel people in and interest them with my free patterns, which are extremely valuable, but it also gives them exposure to my paid patterns. And by giving them that really valuable content for free, it further encourages them to invest in my company. But you have to do what works best for you, and it really depends on the goals of your business. Alrighty, loves, we're going to start wrapping things up. So next we're going to talk about our pattern spotlight. And this month we are spotlighting the hot cocoa poncho. So this is a free pattern that's available on my blog, TLYCblog.com. This project was created in collaboration with Joanne Stores, who I release one pattern with every single month. This is a Tunisian crochet project that's worked in a honeycomb stitch, and it is constructed from two simple rectangles. There's the body, and then you make the cowl. And the cowl is completely optional, especially now that we're moving into spring. You might choose not to put the cowl on your poncho. I absolutely love this worked up in Lion brand wool ease, but this would be absolutely gorgeous in a lighter weight yarn or even in a cotton for the season change. I put some links below for you to find the hot cocoa poncho not only on my blog, but to also purchase a PDF version from my shop, TLYarncrafts.com. Now here comes my final word, which is a note of encouragement to carry you through your day on a lighter note. And today's final word is, you can do it all, but not all at once. Understand that we have a finite amount of time and energy to accomplish things, even if our mind and our imagination runs a mile a minute. Take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Focus on the things that are most important to you so you can do a great job at a few things as opposed to a mediocre job at a lot of things. Well, that's it for this podcast episode. Make sure you stay up to date with me by joining my email list and also following me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube. And you can also find all of my products at TLYarncrafts.com. I'll see you guys next time. Love you, Mom. Love you, Dad. Bye.